Cafe Networking podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Rioch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. And today we talk with Katarina Polonska, joining us from London, England. Katarina Polonska specializes in helping high achievers be as successful in their relationships as they are in their careers. Katarina is an ICF-accredited high-performance relationship coach and gender dynamics social scientist. So, Katarina, what's the most common mistake people make in their relationships?
Very good question, and I'm excited to answer. So the number one mistake of all the mistakes that I see being made out there, that I've made, that are just so prevalent, is coming into relationship being disconnected from our own relationship to ourselves. And by that, what I mean is, so often we aren't taught how to connect with who we are in our heart of hearts, in our core of core. Quite naturally, I mean, we make our ways through life. We go to school, we might go to university, we might graduate, might get a job. The job will make sense based on what makes money and, what kind of things that we enjoy doing. We kind of follow the trajectory and the pattern of what we think we should be doing in life, getting a home, dating, eventually finding a partner, hopefully having friends, etc., etc. Very rarely throughout our lives are we actually invited to take a stop, to take a pause and look at, are we actually happy? What do we actually want out of our lives? Who are we at our core? What do we actually want and need? We're told what we want by society, by consumerism, by societal messages, cultural messages, our parents, our peers, whatever it might be. But very rarely do we have that freedom and space to really think about who are we and what do we actually need and want. And so what happens when we come into a relationship is very often we enter a relationship without a coherent, stable, integrated sense of who we are.
Right.
And that leaves us quite vulnerable to doing things that are out of integrity with who we are at our core. And so we begin to build relationships on a very unstable footing with an inauthentic rendition of who we are. And what that might look
back to
like.
that point of who we are and talking about relationships. We have, let's say, a list of relationships. We have personal relationships, social relationships, business relationships. And you say we need to know ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Is that ourself one, or can that ourself be several, depending on the relationship?
Yeah, perfect question. Absolutely, it can be several, right? At the core, it's kind of like imagine an onion. So within the onion, there's a core, and that core is who we are. That's going to be our values, our core needs, our childhood wounds, our triggers, like really the essence of who we are is going to be at the core. And then that's going to unfold into different renditions based on different circumstances, based on who we are in the business sense, based on who we are in a personal relationship, who we are with our family. There will be different identities, but there will still be a kernel of truth in who we are, right? And what happens when we don't have that clarity on that kernel, when we don't know our values, we don't know who we are on a deep, deep, deep core level. And I talk about needs a lot. When we don't know what our core needs are, we can find ourselves getting into relationships or into careers or into situations where it's out of integrity. We often don't know it because, again, we don't know who we are. And because we have that weak foundation, we end up shape-shifting and bending ourselves and people-pleasing, again, without realizing, to fit into the situation at hand, which, sure, it can work short-term. We might get that promotion. We might get into that relationship. We might get those dates, whatever it is. But long-term, we're either going to burn out. Burnout is fundamentally a symptom of us neglecting our needs and being disconnected from our core. So we're either going to burn out, resentment's going to brew, we're going to become disillusioned, or we're going to completely lose ourselves, not know who we are. And that leaves us very vulnerable and susceptible to influence and moving away from what we actually need to be happy and thriving.
Now, do you see, say, high achievers and very successful people, do they tend to distance themselves from their core, or is it harder to maintain their core? How do you see that?
Yeah, spot on. And this is why I work specifically with this group. And by high achiever, I mean, I'm a first generation immigrant. I think a lot of immigrants I know are high achievers because we've been conditioned to think, you've made it to
Hmm.
this foreign land. You now have to jump through the hoops and you can succeed and you can make the money and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, absolutely. By essence of being a high achiever, and I'm going to say we collectively because I'm one of these. We know the different things that we need to do
Hmm.
to succeed. And I'm
Right.
doing quotation marks to succeed, right? Succeed based on society's terms. We know that yes, probably going to university is probably going to be a good thing, or probably starting a business and being an entrepreneur is going to be a good thing. We know that we should look to build our financial wealth. We know that we should have investments. We know that we should potentially get a corporate job, build a startup. We know the different trajectory of the different things that we need to do to get to that point of success that society has told us is success. And the danger of that is we can become so good at jumping through the different hoops.
Right.
I used to, I say I used to be like a show pony. I used to be brilliant at jumping through the hoops. I used to actually be proud of it. I'd be like, tell me what I need to do and I will do it. I'll be the best at doing it. And we're good at it because we can force our will. We can build a strategy. We can make a plan. We can suck it up and get it done. We have the grit. We have the resilience. We have the drive and all these things. And we can do it. But does it make us happy?
Right.
Is it actually what we want and need? And it's a whole kind of adage, right, of how you have the high achiever who's working so hard in their life, they're building their startup, or they're working in the corporate, and they're getting all the promotions, getting into that senior role. And in the end, they're trying to accrue the wealth so that they can retire and buy like a little boat, and sail around and just chill. When actually you can do that now without
Right.
all the accolades and all the credentials and all the achievements. Is this kind of backwards way of doing things. And yet so many of us do it.
Let me
So
ask
many.
another thing, because you travel extensively. All right. You offer
Mm,
your services, I'm going to say everywhere, but
I do,
in
yeah.
many parts of the world. And we talk again relationships.
Hmm.
Are they culturally oriented? Are they geographically oriented? Do you see the same hoops everywhere, or are there different hoops?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. And you're right. Like I'm half Slovakian, half Russian. My father's in Ukraine. I grew up in England. I lived in Italy. I lived in Spain. I'm now in Spain, actually. I lived in Dubai. I lived in Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen, actually, as of
Yeah.
last month. But anyhow, yeah, very, very international. My husband's from Barbados, and it's a very international background. What I do find is who we are in our core is typically we all kind of really want the same things,
Hmm.
but the way through which we get them and the way in which they manifest will be different based on the culture and the society we're from.
Right.
And very often, the culture and society we're from will create, I call them limiting beliefs, but structures of thought, belief systems, value systems
Right.
that we might not have had a choice in.
Right.
We just co-opted them because that's what we inherited as children. We have no choice about it, blah, blah, blah. And they dictate how we show up in life. And so some of the best work that we can do is really dismantling the different structures that we know, the different
Right.
belief systems that we know. And again, getting back to our core and realizing, what do I actually want? I have a client right now, he's Italian from a very Catholic, very kind of patriarchal background, and he loves his parents with all his heart. He loves his culture, he loves his family,
Right.
but he's been struggling to find a partner. He's now in his 40s and he's been struggling his whole life. And as we've worked together, we've dismantled his inherently limiting belief system that he has to be with a similar kind of Catholic
Right.
family woman. What we realized is he loves to surf, he loves to travel, he has a PhD, he's very entrepreneurial. He doesn't actually want kids, he doesn't want to get married. He just wants a life partner to go and explore and adventure the world with. And to him, he's been like, I can't find that because that's not compatible with anything. But actually, there are plenty of potential partners out there in the world for him. He just
Well,
couldn't see it,
and
right?
to the point, relationships don't have to be finite. They don't have to be.
Absolutely.
We tend to, and again, culturally, say, well, you have to
Mm,
find somebody and be with that somebody forever.
exactly.
That's a yes and a no. And that's of course in
Exactly.
today's
Exactly.
world. For what I hear, what you're saying, what we need to do is to take our core and actually
Hmm.
put that on our backpack. That has to be on our
Mm,
carry-on, right?
hmm.
So even if we
Hmm.
do travel, we don't want that luggage lost. It has to be with us. Is
Exactly.
that it?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I love that.
Well, Katarina, how can our listeners find you?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
can say where they go. What's the best way?
Where
Because
they
you're
went.
everywhere.
Well, my plan is to be in Spain, which is where I am right now, and I'm waiting for my shipment from abroad to arrive with all my luggage. So I'm not moving. Too expensive and too tiring. I'm not moving. But no, my email address is Katarina@katarinapolonska.com, and website is www.katarinapolonska.com, and or my LinkedIn. And my LinkedIn is, like you flagged up earlier, it's a little bit different. It's Katarina Polonski with a Y. For all my Eastern European listeners out there, you'll know why that is. But yeah, emailing me is probably the best way.
Very good. Well, thanks for being here and sharing your experiences with relationships.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And again, for our listeners, more information about Katarina Polonska, and it's Katarina, the last name Polonska. You find her on our website, which is katarinapolonska.com, and also on LinkedIn. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at their site, focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.